think it is a stunning place. Brecon Beacons National Park is one of the most varied of the national parks in Britain. It goes from Hay-on-Wye in the northeast, right over to the Welsh-speaking West Wales, really. So it covers geographically, it's a widespread, huge variety of landscape, different languages, different cultures from one end to the other, from Merthyr to Hay. You know, it is just, the variety of it is extraordinary and joyful. So it's one of the most special national parks for that reason, I think.
Oh, I remember when it was set up, and I remember Mr. Ken Jones, who lived just down the road here. I think he had a lot to do with the setting up of it in this area, because his cousin, I think, was in charge of the grant that was given for it.
I remember my father being very interested, particularly at the time, because my father was born and went to school and was brought up in Brecon, and in common, I think, with a lot of people at that time, he was quite sceptical. Was it going to be a good thing or was it going to be a bad thing? But I think it pretty soon became clear that the whole area was going to be under serious threat unless some sort of designation like that came along. And I think towards the end of his life, he was quite an enthusiast, and on balance, I think I am too.
Well, of course, hyn sydd yn arbennig yw'r peth sydd wedi denu'r parc, neu wedi creu'r parc yma. Mae'r golygfeydd yn anhygoel yn Sir-Brycheiniog yn enwedig bod y banau, ac mae hynny wedi wneud y lle yn arbennig, ac felly wedi cael nawdd y Llywodraeth neu nawdd y parc felly i edrych ar ôl y pethau na.
At the moment, it's the most marvellous balance between the hills, the nature of the hills, and what farming has done to the valleys. And it is a very, very beautiful part of the world here, as is Snowdonia, as are many of the national parks. They wouldn't be national parks unless they were beautiful.
Amser yn yr Irai Bach, amser yr haf, o dad wedi wneud poboraca fach i ni fel plant. Fe bod ni yn trau'r gwair amser o'n i'n 5 mlwydd oed. O'n i gyd a boboraca o'r rhai hynna i'r llia. O'n i gyd yn hapus.
Y rhan fwyaf o'r rheini, y tools yn dad yn gwneud, torri nhw o gillad boced a bwell a wneud nhw mas o'r rheini. Dim byd arall i gael.
Wel, o dim dŵr dyn ni, o dim tap yn y tir. O'n i ffo cario bob tymed o ddŵr. Y dŵr o'n i'n cael i fed a i wneud y bwyd, oedd hwnna'n dod o'r ffynon lawr bwys yr afon. Wedi roi'r llun y bont i chi, a oedd y nabledd y ffynon. A wedyn ni, oedd y pelldill wedyn ni, y tiol i'r buildings, oedd yn dod lawr. Lant fach yn dod, gwter fach oedd hi yn dod lawr trwy'r cefen. Ond oedd y caduriad yn trafili fyna, wel oedd y dŵr yna ddim yn ffit i fed. Achos oedd y caduriad yn trafili, ond oedd hwnna'n cael ei wso i golchi dillad a beth fanna, a golchi llestri oedd y dŵr na'n iawn yna.
Y credwch chi o'n i gyd, oedd Jean a Rita war, a frawd a finne, a'n dad, wel fyrnw i finne a'n dad, o'n i gweithio dan ddiar i gadw'r ffarm fi. Ffarma bod i gadw chi bod ffordd arall rhawn o dyn ni.
My father was from farm in stock that lived in Gyfaelon. They had several farms there. He was one of 7. Out of them all, he was the only one that didn't stay in farming. Because when he was a young man, he partly worked on the farm, then walked over the mountains of Blenavon to do some mining to make some money.
Everybody these days, they're so self-centered, I think, and almost greedy. And in the old days, all farmers used to share the work amongst each other. You know, they come and visit for shearing and many other jobs. But today, mechanization has taken over, and you haven't got that spirit that we had. And of course, people today have no conception, and it's hardly worth trying to tell them how hard life was on the farm when I was a boy.
Y pethau mwy diddorol felly ynglyn â'r parc I fi yw agwedd y bobl tuag at y parc a agwedd y parc tuag at y bobl. Achos ar y dechrau oedd bobl yn ddrwg-dybus iawn. Ac yr arddywediad ar y pryd oedd dych chi ddim yn gallu byw ar yr olygfeydd. Ac wrth gwrs mae hynny wedi newid yn llwyr oddi ar hynny. Erbyn hyn mae twristiaeth wedi tyfu i fod yn bwysig iawn yn yr economi lleol, ac felly mae agwedd y bobl tuag at y parc wedi newid. Ond ddiddorol hefyd yw efallai y ffordd mae bobl o'r tu allan yn edrych ar y parc hefyd. Achos ar y dechrau oedd storiau di-ri gan ddealltwriaeth felly gan y cyhoedd o beth oedd y parc cenedlaethol. Un stori hynny o Dal y Bont yn reiddiol oedd I deulu droi lan yn y pentre a set o'r picnic lan ar lawnt rhywun, private. A pan oedd bobl yn gofyn iddyn beth yn meddwl yn wneud, yr ateb oedd, but it is a national park, isn't it? Felly oedd yn cymryd genedlaethol fod yn hollol wahanol I beth yw mewn gwirionedd.
I think the greatest challenge for all the national parks, not just the Brecon Beacons National Park, is the future sustainability of the farming industry. People are beginning to realise that the park is not God-given. It's actually the result of generations of farming. And the whole landscape is man-made, not given by right.
Farming isn't very easy at the moment. No. There's too much paperwork by any sense. We're restricted on everything we do. There was more pleasure in farming 20 years ago. We can't do what we like when we like almost now.
And I had 3 boys and a girl. And I guided them away from farming because I could see at that time that there wasn't much future in farming.
But they got to realise that unless they keep the farming in the countryside, as in the national park now, the national park won't be as it is now. And if they take the sheep off the hill, they won't be the lovely walks that are there now because it'll be overgrown.
Overgrazing has been, I think, a problem in some areas of the park. But I think 2001, with the severe impact of foot and mouth, did open everybody's eyes to the risk of undergrazing. And hopefully we can work together to have a sensible balance for the future.
You know, people are talking at the moment about that all farmers have got to diversify. Well, not every farm can be bed and breakfast, not every farm can run a pony trekking business, not every farm can, have dry ski slopes and the other leisure and pleasure, or pony trekking or whatever it may be.
It's very difficult for a traditional sized hill farm, or even for a very large hill farm for that matter, to make a real sensible living just out of hill farming. And that situation, I suspect, will get even more marked as subsidies are gradually withdrawn altogether. Although to some extent they may be backed up by environmental support, but it won't be enough for people not to have to diversify. And of course there have been a whole variety of areas, particularly into tourism and so on, but many people are actually doing 2 or 3 jobs instead of 1.
In the end, it is the profitability of farming which will keep the countryside as it is what people want.
One day we had a chap called Clive Ashcroft selling animal medicines, and he said, we've got the mountains right behind us, as you've seen. He said, hasn't anybody thought of gliding here? And I hadn't thought of gliding. I said, no. Well, send somebody up from the club. They were flying down South Wales somewhere, and it was a difficult site, and they were looking for a new site. And on the 25th of July 79, we started flying from Targa. And now it is the premier site in the country.
And the Sustainability Challenge Fund, the SCF, were very supportive in helping a small group of producers, basically in the Sennybridge, Trecastle area initially, to form a marketing partnership with Marks and Spencer's. This had to be based on quality from the word go. It started, in fact, with some, as it probably always should do, with tastings. Marks and Spencer's were very impressed, not only with that, but with the environment the sheep were coming from. And the initial pump priming from the SCF was really essential to get things off the ground, because there was a need to establish a link, a lot of travelling, a lot of publicity really to support. We also looked at other areas such as, would there be additional markets for the sheepskins? Would there be weaving opportunities for the wool? Quite apart from just marketing the lambs. And the SCF supported all this. I've brought with me a hat. I've promised not to wear it. Don't know if it looks better on my wife than on me. But that shows a logo that was developed for the Sheep Society, again with the support of the SCF.
So the future of farming is actually fundamental to the future of the national park.
Well, it's countrified, isn't it? And very beautiful with the mountains. And I look out from my kitchen window and, well, people are amazed at the view that they get from every window. Lovely.
Un peth sydd dwi ddim yn hapus iawn amdano fe yw y ffaith bod y parc bellach yn awdurdod cynllunio. O'r blaen, oedd rôl ymgynghorol gyda'r parc, gyda'r siroedd Powys a siroedd eraill sydd yn rhan o'r diriogaeth. Ond erbyn hyn, wrth gwrs, mae'n awdurdod cynllunio annibynnol.
I will defend national park planners to the death, really. I think that's the other thing that makes the national park special, is that you've got a group of people looking at all the developments that are happening, and really a good system of checks and balances about what the park looks like, which is really important. But I also feel that we need to move with the times, and I think that a challenge for the planners will be to make sure that buildings and facilities that are developed are meeting sustainable development targets and sustainable energy targets, as well as fitting in with what the landscape looks like, as they do so well.
A fe oedd na gyfarfod yn yr Eilwyd I drafod beth oedd y bobl yn teimlo am yr adroddiad a beth lycan nhw weld yn digwydd. A yn y cyfarfod na, fe godwyd y mater, wrth gwrs, oedd ysgol y Fabanod sydd wedi lleoli bang yng nghanol y pentre yn dod I ddiwedd I host fel ysgol, gan bod nhw wedi codi estyniad i'r ysgol gynradd, a fydde'r Babanod yn symud lan I fod ar yr un safle dan yr un prifathro. A oedd yr ysgol wedyn yn dod yn wag. A yna dimlad cryf iawn yn y cyfarfod bod ei cadw'r adeilad. Beth ola fydden ni eisiau fydde gweld yr adeilad yn cael ei ddymchwel a dinawlyr beth yn cael ei godi yn ei le. A wedyn wnaethon ni feddwl beth newn ni ag ede. A o fanna gododd y syniad o ganolfan gymunedol. Felly nid penderfynu cael canolfan gymunedol a chwilio am gatre iddi wnaethon ni. Ffordd arall rownd.
Ie, ond y peth nath yr holl beth yn bosib oedd bod ni wedi cael yr arian o'r parc cenedlaethol. Oherwydd roedd hwnna, beth maen nhw'n gweud, ar pob un o grantiau chi'n cael o'r Ewrop, mae'n bod matched funding. A oedd yr arian geson ni wrth y parc cenedlaethol yn matched funding i'r grantiau eraill I gyd geson ni. Felly, o'r parc cenedlaethol dechreuodd Ond bai am y parc cenedlaethol, byddwn ni ddim wedi gallu mynd ffordd eithaf ni.
Mae Gymraeg yn bwysig ymryn yma, yn dal I fod. A, y Gymraeg, mwy neu lai, mae dyn yn clywed wrth fod mewn i'r ganolfan. A wy'n credu o bosib hefyd bod wedi gwneud I bobl Bryn Aman sydd I Gymraeg I sylweddoli mor berthnasol mae'r iaith
i fywyd y gweddill o'r gymuned wrth bod nhw'n dod mewn a siarad yn naturiol.
Mae rhai o gwirfoddolwyr, maen nhw'n dysgu Cymraeg, sydd wedi dod i fyw yn y pentref, yn nawr yn dysgu Cymraeg.
Mae dosbarthiadau Cymraeg yn y ganolfan hefyd.
Felly mae hynny yn ddiddorol iawn hefyd. Ac hefyd y ffordd mae'r parc wedi newid yn enwedig tuag at y Gymraeg. Dwi'n cofio yn gynnar pan o'n i'n dal yn fyfyriwr felly, gofynnais i am lenyddiaeth am y parc yn Gymraeg. Yr ateb oedd, we have none of that nonsense here. A mae hynny wedi newid yn llwyr. Mae'r parc fel llawer o bethau gyhoeddus bellach yng Nghymru yn ddwyieithog. Mae'r parc yn parc y Gymraeg. Sydd ond yn naturiol wrth ystyried bod, wel, dwi ddim yn siŵr o'r ffigur, ond rhywbeth fel 1 o bob 4 yn y parc yn siarad Cymraeg. Os ydych chi'n cymryd Sir Gyfyrddin a'r Gorllewin Sir Brycheiniog a 1,000 o bobl yn Fyrhonddu sy'n siarad Cymraeg, felly mae yn garfan sylweddol. Felly dyma rai o'r argraffiadau felly o'r mywyd i felly yn y parc, a'r cysylltiadau gyda'r parc.
We thought it would be really good to come up with a project that happened in each of the national parks that was addressing a really fundamental issue that, to do with sustainability, and we thought that energy was really at the heart of it all. So the Sustainable Development Fund allowed us to do an initial feasibility study to see just what might be possible in a local area in the national park. So we got consultants in to do that. Well, what we've done is put a turbine back into the turbine house that was built in the 30s when the reservoir was built to supply water to the people of Newport. And we are able to sell the electricity that we generate through the grid to an energy supplier. So we are now looking at an income of £17,000 a year back into the Talabont community that we can invest in further renewable energy projects, but also crucially energy saving projects. So I suppose that we are constantly needing to set up and economic ventures that are going to keep people here and provide jobs for our young people and jobs for the people who live here that don't impact on the beautiful place that we live in. So that's a challenge, as it is for any other community really in Wales, but I suppose particularly here.
Mae'r parc wedi denu llawer o bobl i ardal oedd ddim yn anhysbys, ond yn weddol o dawel o safbwynt twristiaeth yn y gorffennol. Doedd ddim cymryd hynny o bobl yn dod ar ei gwyliau i'r ardal yn y 50au. Rhai wrth gwrs, ond mae'r nifer wedi tyfu yn fawr wrth ystyried traw tan yn ddiweddar Ban y Brycheiniog oedd y parc yn gosaf at Linden, felly yn denu llawer o bobl lawr o'r dinasoedd i Geredd y Bryniau ag ati.
I think tourists that are aware of things are good, like people who realise that the countryside isn't just like a playground. The people who realise that it is a real place and they have to respect it. That it's also like a working landscape, that they can't just go walking over farmland and things like that. They have to be respectful of the countryside and the people that live there.
There's a path passes right by my house, so I see quite a lot of people through it and I have a chat with them. And I hope that as I speak to many of these visitors, I hope I enlighten them about country life.
Well, we've got to keep the countryside as it is. We've got to encourage the youngsters to stay in the farms, to keep the farming going, because you can't learn hill farming, or any farming, from a book. It's got to be handed down from generation to generation.
The farmers have left. That's the biggest changes. But there is another change now, because the families that are there now, there are more young children. There are more young children going to school from that lane now than there have been for years. And more young children with different ideas. They love living in the national park, although they're not local. And they use it for all the right reasons. They want to walk in it a lot.
Well, it's definitely a problem, because we have benefited from growing up in such an area and away from crime and appreciating all the natural world. And it's a shame that people are getting up and leaving, because it's such a beautiful place and it benefits your health more than anything else. I'm Rosie Bates, and I was involved in a production by Red Kite Theatre called Celt, which was produced by Margie Douglas and directed by Sue Best. And yeah.
And I'm Meryl Green. I was also part of Celt by Red Kite Theatre.
People know now who Red Kite are.
Yes, that's right.
And without that Sustainable Development Fund, that would never have happened.
And in fact, the kids, it was quite an amazing thing to see. While we were doing Celt, we all became a tribe, which was, and people that you would not think would get on, as Rosie was saying, or even want to talk to each other with class, or the old sort of class system. Just because people from one side of a hill to another don't get on, in these parts. So for people that live a long way away, you would think it would be difficult, but in fact, you put them together and work on something like this, and it changes everything.
Well, there's a core group of people now, and they're experienced in what they do, and we've got the sound and the lights and the wherewithal, I guess, to take it out to people that haven't got it and show them and get them to enjoy it and get enthusiastic about it and give them an opportunity they just don't get,
I think that the cooperation between the two is a good thing, and I hope it continues.
Yeah.
And that maybe with more people coming to Red Kite, obviously the awareness of the national park being here would be raised also.
Yeah, I think may this whole cooperation between the National Park and Red Kite continue. So it's a good thing.
A favourite place in the park? Yes, I think I have. It's one of the salmon pools on the River Usk in Glenhouse Park, where one can stand for hour on end and just forget the world.
I'm very fond of it. I've got a soft spot for the Alt, and the views from the top are as stunning as they are anywhere in the national park, but special to me.
Blaen Sorghwm, sef y sawdl rhwng Mynydd Llangors a Mynydd Troed.
Mae'r parc yn Craig y Nos yn un peth, os dim un, fi ddim yn credu bod lle'n bertach i gael. Mae'r plant yn gallu dod mewn I warau, a maen nhw'n gwybod bod nhw'n saff.
Oh, where I live. It's a lovely spot. You haven't been down there. You must come. I think it's heaven.
Any of the mountains, really. Just the freedom, just getting up there.
My favourite place is in my kitchen window looking down over Talga.
Me, personally, up Cwm Sarah and take the sheep up under Penavon, Cwm Sarah side. It's like heaven.
Well, I haven't so much got a favourite place, but I reckon if I were to go there, it would definitely be the tops of every mountain in the park, because seeing everything from there, it'd just be an amazing thing to see. So.
My favourite place probably is the waterfalls area and Porthorolgoth. So I visited there a while ago. I just think it's fantastic. It's an amazing landscape. It's really beautiful.
But I think that Llanafan Bach and just above Llanafan Bach takes a lot of beating.
But I also love the Beacons, and I love seeing the peaks and the little Llyn in the winter in the snow. I always remember that. That's one of my favourite things. But I mean, I love all of it. I'd hate to live in the city now. Really hate it. I've never done much of it. I don't plan to do it anymore. So it looks like they're stuck with me.